As much as I can, I like to make sustainable, climate-friendly choices in my life. I bike instead of driving, I carry my trusty water bottle with me to stay hydrated, and I even bring my own reusable cutlery and a collapsible bowl with me wherever I go, so I don't have to use plastic and takeout containers. I'm also trying to bring handkerchiefs back. They're way better than any paper napkin you've ever used. But I can't prepare for everything. Like, say I need to go to the store to buy more yarn so I can stick to my goal of crocheting 24 dog sweaters in 2024. It's going well, thank you for asking. No, it is not the same size it was 5 episodes ago. What are you talking about? Well, I'm supposed to use natural fibers because they're better for the environment, but that costs way more. And even when I can afford these more expensive fibers, cotton uses a ton of water and pesticides, and if I decide to go with wool, are the sheep and alpacas being treated ethically? Plus, there's lots of really cute labels telling me the stuff is organic and recycled and good for the earth, but I don't know, is it? Or are all these companies just lying to me so that I'll spend all my money on their cute yarn? And if they're lying to me about yarn, what else are they lying about? What am I supposed to do? Hi, I'm Miriam Nielsen, and this is Study Hall Sustainability. Honestly, plenty of companies don't have a great track record when it comes to telling the truth about their products. In 2022, the Keurig company was fined $3 million by Canada's Competition Bureau, an agency that regulates competition for Canadian businesses. Keurig claimed that after the lid was removed and the pod was emptied and cleaned, K-cups were recyclable. But in Canada, many recycling facilities couldn't recycle the cups. So what Keurig did is known as greenwashing, or claiming to do more for the environment than it actually does. It's also known as lying, and consumers, investors, and governments don't love being lied to. In some cases, it's even illegal. But companies know that being more sustainable, or at least claiming to be more sustainable, is good for business. A 2020 survey found that 60% of people said they'd pay more for a sustainable product. And in 2021, consumers around the world said they were more likely to buy products from companies that care about sustainability. Knowing that, it's probably not surprising to hear that Keurig is definitely not the only company greenwashing things. Take Volkswagen. The US Environmental Protection Agency conducts emissions tests on cars to make sure that car exhaust meets legal standards. And in 2015, they found that 11 million Volkswagen cars were cheating on the test. These cars had software that could detect when an emissions test was happening. Then it sneakily activated equipment that reduced emissions. So while it looked like all the cars were passing the test, some of them were actually emitting over 40 times the legal limit of nitrogen oxides. The government fined Volkswagen $2.8 billion for greenwashing, aka being lying nitrogen-emitting sneaks. And in 2023, the Swiss Fairness Commission, which regulates advertising, investigated complaints against FIFA, the world's governing body for soccer. In the lead-up to the 2022 World Cup, FIFA advertised the tournament as its first climate-neutral tournament. They promised to reduce carbon emissions and offset the rest, including emissions generated from fans traveling to the tournament. Reducing and offsetting emissions is a common strategy for organizations trying to be or appear more sustainable. Lots of companies are making goals to be carbon neutral, saying that for any carbon they release into the atmosphere, they'll have an equal amount removed. And often, removing carbon looks like paying for offsets or investing in projects that reduce carbon, like reforestation. But planting a whole bunch of trees doesn't necessarily remove carbon at the same rate or timescales that, say, a bunch of soccer fans flying across the world creates. Plus, it's hard for governments to have a clear tree-to-flight standard to enforce. So FIFA's claims raise suspicions, particularly since new air-conditioned stadiums were built in the very warm desert country of Qatar for the tournament. When people asked FIFA to prove that they had reduced and offset their emissions, they couldn't do it. Lucky for us and our yarn aisle anxiety, there are organizations keeping an eye on companies, and we can also investigate the bold and suspicious claims companies are making to figure out if they're actually working toward their sustainability goals. Many companies publish sustainability reports on their websites. These reports usually state the company's goals, explain how they plan to reach these goals, and show where progress stands as of that year. And these reports can give us a lot of information. For example, they're how we know that Google's emissions were 48% higher in 2023 than they were in 2019, and that Microsoft's water consumption was up 34% from 2021 to 2022. That's partly because of increased development of artificial intelligence systems. The computer power required to run and keep those systems cool uses a lot of electricity and water. Microsoft's data centers in Iowa used 11.5 million gallons of water in July 2022 alone. That matters because Microsoft wants to be carbon negative, meaning all their operations result in carbon dioxide leaving the atmosphere by 2030. And Google says it has been carbon neutral since 2007 and plans to have zero carbon emissions by 2030. But AI is making it a lot harder to reach those goals. Even when companies are as transparent as Microsoft and Google, it's really hard to fact-check these reports. Companies are only going to share what they want to share, and like anyone who spent time on a dating app can tell you, people tend to exaggerate their best qualities and downplay the less attractive stuff. Are there really 6 feet of yarn in this ball? So organizations can also use third-party reports. Companies pay for them, but these reports tend to be more robust and reliable than internal reports. Third-party reports are designed to make organizations more transparent about their sustainability performance and minimize greenwashing. They also allow companies to benchmark their performance against competitors, and that can pressure companies to get more sustainable to make sure they're supporting the future of our world. I mean, stay ahead of competition. Gotta love capitalism. The Global Reporting Initiative is one broadly adopted third-party reporting tool. Its sustainability reporting standards help organizations measure their economic, environmental, and social impacts. These standards cover everything from a company's water usage to employee safety to biodiversity. The GRI is voluntary, but 78% of the world's largest companies participate. That's over 11,000 companies in more than 100 countries. Another broadly adopted third-party reporting tool is the CDP, previously known as the Carbon Disclosure Project. It began in 2000 with a focus on tracking companies' greenhouse gas emissions. They currently collect self-reported carbon disclosures from around 20,000 companies worldwide and have carbon disclosure reporting available for entire cities, states, and regions. Sustainability reports are generally optional for companies, and lots of companies choose to participate because it seems good for business. But there is some legally required reporting too, and complying with the law is generally also good for business. As of the 2024 financial year, large and publicly listed companies in the European Union must report on their company's impact on people and the environment. And in the United States, the Securities and Exchange Commission adopted new climate disclosure rules for large companies in 2024. Under these regulations, there are 3 categories of emissions that a company may have to disclose, known as Scope 1, Scope 2, and Scope 3. So say Melanie runs Megawatt Energy, an energy drink company in the US. Her company produces a lot of carbon emissions, like from the whole process of mixing the caffeine and the taurine and the other semi-questionable ingredients, sealing that carbonated energy into cans, and snapping them into those plastic rings that turtles think make cute necklaces. They've also bought cool cars, wrapped them in the company's lightning bolt logo, and sent them out into the world so employees can advertise and hand out electrifying drinks to potential new customers. All of these actions create Scope 1 emissions, or emissions that come directly from the company or sources the company owns, and Melanie is required to disclose them. Melanie is also required to disclose Scope 2 emissions, which come from things like burning gas for electricity or heat that companies buy from another source. So Megawatt isn't running the power plant, but they still need electricity, and the emissions associated with that electricity falls into Megawatt's Scope 2, which if you're keeping track at home are also the Scope 1 emissions for the power plant. Then there's Scope 3, indirect emissions. Melanie's company uses trucks owned by another company to transport the drinks. They buy raw materials like sugar, aluminum, and plastic that are created with processes that release carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. And when people are finished with their drink cans, they become waste. Even though the trucks, raw materials, and waste produce a lot of emissions, Melanie doesn't report them because reporting Scope 3 emissions is often optional, including under the new SEC rules. But Scope 3 is often responsible for more than 70% of a company's carbon footprint. If we can't track Megawatt Energy's Scope 3 emissions, we're not getting the full picture of their impact. So reports don't tell us everything, but they're still really helpful and important tools for pushing companies to set climate goals, holding them accountable for achieving those goals, and telling governments, investors, and consumers what a company's up to. But let's be honest, who's really gonna read and understand a big ol' report about Microsoft's energy usage? Well, I would, but I do it so you don't have to. You're welcome. That's why companies turn to advertising to get their message across. And it can be really effective, but as Keurig found out, it can also backfire. As consumers become more aware of things like greenwashing, they'll become more skeptical of things companies are saying about themselves. So labels can be another quick, effective way for a company to show sustainability in its products. But as we know from the yarn aisle, you have to know what you're looking for because there are so many labels and all those cute fonts could be lying to you. But some labels are pretty trustworthy, like the US Department of Agriculture sets standards and regulations for food labels. According to their guidelines, food can be labeled organic if it contains at least 95% organic ingredients. And if a product has at least 70% organic ingredients, it gets a label that says, for example, made with organic flour. There are labeling requirements for non-food items too. The Forestry Stewardship Council uses an FSC label to certify lumber that meets certain requirements for preserving forests, biodiversity, and fair wages. And the Federal Trade Commission has guidelines for other kinds of product labels. For example, clothes or shoes that are made from recycled materials, made with renewable materials, less waste, and more. It's not easy being green, but it's easy to slap a green label on a ball of yarn. And studies show that customers who are looking for sustainability-related labels are influenced to purchase products when they see them. That means that understanding these labels and what they mean is really important. It also means we may have to do some research and fact-checking before buying products, so you may have to read that big ol' report after all. As we know, in today's world, it's really hard to be sustainable. That's true for regular people trying to buy yarn and for the massive companies producing the yarn. Even the most sustainable product out there likely comes with some downsides for the environment. So we need more regulations in place that hold companies to a higher standard and make it harder for them to get away with lying. In the meantime, we probably can't make perfect sustainable choices all the time. We can't completely avoid being bamboozled by greenwashing, and we might not even be able to avoid having a breakdown in the yarn aisle. What we can do is try to stay informed, do our research, and be wary of bold claims, cute fonts, and flashy advertising. Then we can support the companies that seem to be making a real effort to change the status quo for our economies and our planet. If you're enjoying this series and are interested in taking the full study hall sustainability course and earning college credit from ASU, check out gostudyhall.com or click on the button to learn more. And if you want to help us out, give this video a like, comment your favorite actually sustainable product, mine is my camping bowl, and smash that subscribe button. Thanks for watching, see you next time.